Good afternoon, members. It is time to start the FC meeting. We have also formed a quorum. We can start our meeting today. This is also the last meeting of the FC in the year 2013. As usual, I would like to remind members that in relation to the business to be handled today, if you have direct or indirect pecuniary interest, then please, in accordance with Rule 83A of the Rules of Procedure, before you speak about the topic, disclose the nature of the relevant interest. I would also like to draw members' attention to Rule 84 of the Rules of Procedure in relation to the provisions concerning voting in relation to a matter that you have direct pecuniary interest. Today we have 5 papers for your consideration and approval. Therefore, I'm going to impose a time limit. 4 minutes for the first round of questions, please. Item 1 on the agenda, FCR 2013-14-41. This item seeks approval of the recommendations of the Public Works Subcommittee made at its meeting held on the 27th of November 2013. There is paper PWSC 2013-14-26. No member has asked for let me finish first. For the relevant paper, there hasn't been a suggestion to have the matter voted on separately. Mr. Wong Kwok Heng. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. For this funding request, I support the direction of the paper. However, it involves hospitals and outpatient clinics under the hospital authority. It is about the improvement. I would like to talk about my concern. In relation to the annex to paper CB-11112, 13-14, and that's about the relocation and expansion of Wan Chui Clinic. I want to know when it will be implemented, and then I would like to know how many discs will be handed out. Currently, it is 70 per day. I'm interested in the timetable because the title of the paper says that some of the projects will be subject to the availability of land and technical feasibility. In other words, they haven't been sort of committed. So for the Wan Chui Clinic, I want to know about the actual sort of details. Moreover, I have got a related concern, and it has been given in the paper. And then, be it the district council or the Suicide One residents, we are concerned about the Suicide One complex. There is a site next to it, and the hospital authority has confirmed that it's been earmarked for its future development. But I can't understand why it is not mentioned here at all. Yes, the Eastern District Council and District Council members, time and again, have asked for it. They have marched on this point, but there hasn't been any response at all. So my question is, in relation to the site next to Suicide One complex, I want to know about the plan. Mr. Chairman, currently, every day, the administration has to engage a security guard to guard the place 24 hours a day. And yet the site is just filled with weed. How come that we allow this to happen? Thank you, Mr. Wong, for raising the questions. But I have already asked the Secretariat. But then at the relevant PWSC meeting, the question that you just asked was not raised at that meeting. So they are not ready to answer such public works questions. So officials are not present to take your question. For the questions that you just asked, they will give an answer in writing. Okay? So in future, it's better for you to ask all the questions related to public works in terms of the nature of the work at the PwC meeting. Today we should focus on the financial side. I asked the question at that meeting, but I wasn't satisfied. Now today I have to do the gatekeeping work. They're getting the money. They want to get the money. I want to know how the money is to be spent. Well, if you are still not happy with the answer given to you, then you can reflect your opinion in your vote in a moment. Ms. Sit Ho, would you like to give the floor to them to answer the question? They haven't got the relevant officials to answer your questions. I've already made inquiries. Next, Ms. Sit Ho. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to reiterate one point. Now, we're talking about one-off grant of $13 billion. It involves many minor projects. The Legislative Council finds it impossible to monitor them one by one. Members are worried that it will go out of control once the money has been approved. Well, we hope that the administration will come back regularly and update us on the progress of this grant so that we are told about the progress of the individual items. Please report to the Health Services panel. Yes, this one has been noted. All right. Mr. Yu Si-wing. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If I may ask a question concerning paragraph 8. Subhead 8100MX. It was increased from $200 million to $600 million. But then in the year 2013 to 14, the amount has been reduced. So I want to know whether there will be another fall in the coming year. It was increased from $200 million in 0405 to 2010 to 11. The FSTB will give you an answer in writing. Mr. Kwok-him. My question will be simple. We are talking about one-off grant of $13 billion. And then the financial ceiling of each is $75 million. I want to know how the administration can ensure that in the course of it, there won't be any overspending. And can you prevent the hospital authority from splitting the project into a number of items so that the ceiling can't be exceeded? FSTP. Mr. Chairman, my understanding is that the Food and Health Bureau in the month of November submitted a paper to the Health Services panel to explain how the monitoring would be carried out. Put briefly, the Policy Bureau will carry out the monitoring regularly, and then the relevant electrical panel will get a quarterly report for each item. Yes, that's for individual items, but I want to know the following. We may be talking about a $100 million project. I want to know whether they can sort of split it into packets of $50 million. So do you have a prevention mechanism? Mr. Chairman, the relevant Policy Bureau will examine the proposals from the hospital authority. In our paper, we have already said that the controller has to be accountable, and he will certainly exercise the decision-making power carefully. So we are going to give a detailed report to the LegCo. So after each item has been completed, there will be a detailed report, right? All right, questions have been asked. If there aren't other questions, I will put the matter to the vote. For those who are in favor of the proposal in FCR 2013 to 1441, show of hands, please. Thank you. Those who are against, please raise your hands. No objection. Abstentions? No. I think the majority of the members who are present have voted in favor of the question, and this paper has been endorsed. So second item, FCR brackets 2013 to 14. 46. This item invites members to A. Approve with effect from the 1st of April 2013 an increase in pay by 3.15% for judges and judicial officers, and B. Note the financial implications of about $10.16 million in 2013-14 arising from item A. On the 26th of November this year, the Director of Administration under the CS office consulted the views of the AJLS panel. To answer our questions, we have a number of guest speakers. We have Ms. Kitty Choi, Director of Admin, and Mrs. Du Peng Wei Yi, Deputy Director of Administration. But first of all, I would like to ask Dr. Priscilla Leung to tell us about the result of the deliberation. On the 26th of November 2013, the AJS panel at its meeting discussed about the adjustment of the judicial pay for the year 2013-14. The panel did not object to the proposed rate of adjustment. That is 3.15%, as suggested by the administration. However, in relation to the continuous shortage of manpower, as well as the long waiting time for cases at various levels of the court, members were still concerned. Some members were of the view that the workload was great and then the support was inadequate for the judges. So members hope that there will be more support for JJOs at different levels, and we should also examine the establishment for the JJOs at different levels, including the need to resort to temporary enhancement. Mr. Dennis Kwok. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The legal profession is very concerned about the question of manpower in the judiciary. As indicated many times at panel meetings, and I'm sure Ms. Choi has heard this many times, we are concerned about the case of judges. At the Court of First Instance in the High Court, there are 7 vacancies. For the existing judges, they are getting more and more work, and for unrepresented cases, there has been an increase in the number, and the total workload has also increased. But then the manpower remains tight. So we will urge the administration to do the following in the next 5 to 10 years' time. That is, the administration should consider how we can continuously increase the resources for the judiciary so that the judges won't be having too much workload when compared with other jurisdictions. Look at the case of Singapore. They have got adequate resources and they're expanding. Just a few weeks ago, Singapore announced that they would set up an international court of arbitration. So they've got sufficient resources and they're expanding their judicial system. So we should also take the matter seriously, and I hope the administration will note the concerns of the judiciary as well as the panel. We are of the unanimous view that you have to increase the resources for the judiciary, judicial pay, support, as well as the facilities of the judiciary and the number of courtrooms. I think the administration must provide the support.
Madam Choi, a simple reply is I thank Mr. Kwok's view, and we have heard the point loud and clear. At the beginning of this week at the AJLS panel, the judicial administrator has already explained to the panel the manpower situation and the long waiting time. On behalf of the administration, I can assure the LegCo that we are liaising very closely with the Chief Justice from time to time in respect of manpower and other resources. The judicial administrator has also explained to the LegCo the review which had been conducted, and the outcome had been submitted to the administration in the next financial year. When we discuss the budget, the results can be disclosed to members. Next, Ms. Emily Lau, the Vice Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I'm on the same point raised by Mr. Kwok, Mr. Dennis Kwok. In fact, there is a consensus in the AJLS panel, and many members attended a visit to the judiciary and talked to the the Chief Justice and also his team. We can see that the waiting time is very long, and it is unfair to all the parties. We also say that sometimes a judgment has to the written judgment has been a concern. The judges have to spend a lot of time writing up the judgments because they really don't have time to do so. With the administration review, the pay service conditions so as to attract the best talents to become judges. Even if we are told that even if more bodies are given, there aren't enough office space and there aren't enough supporting staff members. Even if the administration decides to go ahead next year, then according to their efficiency, they can't solve the problem within 15 years. They take 7 or 8 years to build a just small building. I really don't know why Hong Kong has become like this. You need to talk to the judiciary, and I think there's a need to get a site to build a courthouse so that they can recruit more judges. I hope they can give us more information. After they've talked to the judiciary, they should come back to this council and start the process. Mr. Chairman, I think they may even don't have a new courthouse after 15 years. I thank Ms. Lau for the question. As for the long waiting time for the Court of First Instance, the Judicial Administrator has explained it to the panel. In view of the long waiting time, the judiciary, having completed the previous round of recruitment, has already started the second round for recruiting judges for the CFI. As for the writing of judgment, if the case is complicated, if because of other reasons more resources are needed for the writing up of the written judgment, the judge can raise that with the Chief Justice for resources. At the panel, we also explained that the Standing Committee, in conducting a review thus of salaries, does look after that. The committee has to make sure that the remuneration for judges is adequate to attract the best talents to be judges. We look at their salaries, their fringe benefits, including leave and retirement benefits, and the committee believes that it is attractive. The Chief Justice is of the view that with regard to the 45 new judges recruited, 27 were recruited outside, and there is no difficulty in terms of recruitment. As for provision of space in the long term, as I said, from time to time, we take the matter up with the judiciary in terms of provision resources. As said by the Judicial Administrator, under the leadership of the Chief Justice, the administration has been responding positively and in a timely manner. Now, even if they have recruited the judges, there is no court, there is no office. Where do they sit? I thank Ms. Lau for the question. According to the tape recording, on Monday, this Monday, the Judicial Administrator explained to the members concerning filling up the vacancies, there is adequate space for all the newly recruited judges. And if resources can be added in a short term, we will also respond very positively. The judicial administrator has already taken care of that. Ms. Chiang Lai Wan. I have two questions. The first one is concerning the 3.15%. They are paid increase for the judges. Is it an across-the-board increase of 3.15%? Will the percentage be lower for those who have higher pay and higher percentage for those of lower pay, so that on average it is 3.15? Now, the judges and judicial officers are handling very important matters. Therefore, they should be of high quality. Their remuneration should be more attractive. If you give them a better basic pay, you will be able to attract more talents. Training of judges and concerning training of judges and demand for judges, I think there is a need for them to understand the general situation of the community. I asked a judge, you sent people to jail. Had you ever been, not imprisoned, but had you ever looked at the prisons and the prison cells? In fact, he didn't have the experience. I think there's a need to empower the judges so that they can have a better understanding of the situation in our community. Well, I thank the member for the question. With regard to training of judges, I am not in a position to answer the question on behalf of the Chief Justice, but her view will be brought to the judiciary. As for the 3.15%, is it an across-the-board percentage? Is it a high percentage for the senior ones? The answer is it's an across-the-board increase percentage. Now, for civil servants, the junior civil servants had higher pay adjustment percentage, whereas the senior civil servants had a lower percentage point adjustment. Will you follow that example, or will you consider that? Otherwise, even among judges, there is a poverty gap. Thank you, Ms. Chiang, for the question. The judiciary is very small. There are only 190 odd judges. The pay scale is independent. It is just from 0.1 to 0.19, a very short pay scale. If we look at the civil servants' pay scale, from 0.1 to 0.19, they all belong to our senior or high ranking level. If they, I think there is a difficulty for having a longer pay scale. Well, they are rich, they are not poor. Mr. Michael Tian, I support the 3.15% increase. I just ask, is it enough? I've talked to, I visited the judiciary together with other electoral members. Chief Justice Ma told us that the vacancy rate was 15% of 193 places. There is a shortage of about 20 to 30. There is a vacancy of about 20 to 30. The standing committee says that it has made reference to this and that, and is of the view that those who are willing to join the judiciary, the terms and conditions are reasonably attractive. If that's the case, why can't they fill all the vacancies? I thank Mr. Michael Tian for the question. It's not that they have not recruited enough. In fact, they have. In March, when we produced a paper to the panel, as at the 31st of March, they've recruited 27 judges. There is no difficulty of recruitment. 24 of them are barristers and 3 are solicitors. So in terms of recruitment, they have not encountered difficulty. The Standing Commission, in considering the pay revision, has considered a package and thinks that the package is attractive. In the previous term, under the benchmark study of 2010, salary is not the main factor of consideration. Reputation, social status are important. If you become a judge, or rather, this is another level of work from being a solicitor or barrister. The Standing Commission is the view that terms are still attractive. This is the one-sided view of the Standing Commission. But what about the judges? Have you considered the views of the judges? Are the judges happy with their pay? Mr. Chairman and Mr. Tian, when the Standing Commission conducted the review, the judiciary was consulted. And the judiciary did give advice to the Standing Commission, and considering the views given, there was no difficulty in recruitment, and the establishment was at that time adequate. That was in March. Now in March they recruited 29. Have they all gone within half a year? I hope Mr. Tian understands this. Recruitment takes time, and the judiciary has told us the reason for the vacancies. The vacancies are mainly caused by retirement. And also, there is a need of promotion arrangement. In view of this, the judicial administrator has explained to members on Monday the recruitment of CFI judges was conducted in a 3-year cycle, once every 3 years. In view of manpower situation, they have speeded up the recruitment cycle to 1 year. So this year, July, there was another recruitment. So in March, basing on the salary level, recruitment was no problem. The 29 vacancies were unexpected, and to fill up the 29 vacancies is a simple matter. How soon can they fill up the 29 posts? Recruitment is not done by the administration, so I cannot answer the question on behalf of the judicial administrator. I believe they will do it with haste, or they will do it speedily. Well, I think there is a need to review their pay structure. I think they say that it's not about money. Next, Ms. Priscilla Leung. Well, just now I spoke on behalf of the panel. That was the view of the panel. Let me express my view. Now, I don't think the shortage of manpower in the judiciary is not because of money. In fact, there are many talents in the legal sector who want to join the judiciary. A solicitor can only be recruited into the judiciary after 10 or 15 years of practice. Just like government officials, district councillors, or legislative members, you need to have the commitment or the mission. Judges have wide powers, and they also have very great job satisfaction. Now, if salaries are increased in line with the market situation, that's something we support. But if we just look at the vacancy because we think the salary is the main point, that is misunderstanding. I think the long waiting time caused a problem. Justice delay is justice denied. Some spend 5 or 6 years in order to have their case escalated to the Court of Final Appeal. They spend all their savings, all their assets. There are young solicitors, young barristers who have 15 years of experience or 10 years of experience. They have this mission, but is the recruitment system open enough? Is the selection process open, transparent? I think the judges are not happy, not because of salaries, but because of the heavy workload. Because of long hours of work, they don't have time for writing judgment and the like. And manpower, supporting staff is very important, but manpower on the whole is very important, and we need to push the judiciary a bit. They are too slow in doing recruiting of talents.
I think there is a lack of transparency. Moreover, they should be proactive so that they should identify the right caliber. I think there should be a long-term plan so as to attract the talents and train them. We have got so many judicial review, and there will be a lot of legal disputes involving the mainland and Hong Kong. So you should attract the younger legal professionals and groom them instead of muddling through. You have promoted certain judges, and now you're faced with a shortage, and then you try to fill the posts. So I think we need to be more efficient in identifying the appropriate recruits. And then for young lawyers, I think they should be included or taken on earlier so as to groom them. I think you can try to have it discussed at a panel meeting. Director of Meat, anything to add? No? Next, Mr. James Tian. Mr. Chairman, of course, the Liberal Party supports the paper. As many members have said, for those in the legal profession, please speak closer to a mic. I've got nothing to do with it. Don't blame me. Now, for the GJOs, if their quality is not good, it will greatly affect the independence of the judiciary. Now, for the CFA, many a time we find the ruling being reversed when they hear cases from lower courts. So does it mean that the lower courts are not as competent as the higher courts? Now, I think in Hong Kong, we have got shortage of manpower in all sectors. And even in the case of civil servants, we are looking at possible extension of the retiring age. Hong Kong has a very good healthcare system, and so we are able to live longer and longer. For many retired judges or judges about to retire, they are still in great health, better than we legislative councillors. So I just wonder if we can do something about the retirement age of the JJOs. Does it mean that you don't want to block the promotion of junior judges? Just now, Michael also talked about the problem. So that I think if you fill one vacancy and yet you have two leaving, then you will never be able to catch up. Yes, I know that for the Court of Final Appeal, there isn't any age limit on the judges, but there is really a retirement age for judges in other levels of the courts. Director of Admin, I don't think I can comment on behalf of the CJ in relation to retirement policies and his plans, but I can give some information here. As Mr. Michael Tian has said, for the judges of the CFA, the permanent judges and non-permanent judges, they don't need to retire at the age of 65. They can do so at the age of 71. And then for High Court judges, again, they may retire at the age of 70. For District Court judges, 65. And then for the Registrar of the High Court, retirement age of 70. If you're concerned about the manpower and retirement age, you can see that there is some flexibility here. So members don't need to worry about this point. So it's flexible. Next, Mr. Yip Kin Jun. Mr. Chairman, I wasn't in the conference room when you started the item, so I'm not sure whether the question I'm going to ask has already been asked. Do tell me so. I read the paper. I found something odd, and that's in relation to paragraph 10. The Judicial Committee submitted its report to the CE in June. And then in paragraph 11, it says that the CE in Council decided on the 24th of September. So how come that there was such a huge time gap Generally speaking, for the civil service, I think the Pay Trend Committee submitted a report on the 22nd of May, and then the Sitting Council in less than a month's time, namely on the 11th of June, gave approval. So I want to know why there is such a huge difference, so that even if we are to approve it, we have to backdate the adjustment, and we are talking about 9 months gap. I find it odd. I support the broad direction of the paper, but on this point, I find it a bit strange. So I just wonder if the administration can explain. DFA, after they have submitted the report to us, the administration has to carry out an analysis, and then we have to make a recommendation to the Sitting Council, and so that has taken some time. I hope Mr. Yu can understand that we are not blocking and we are not delaying the progress of the pay adjustment. This is because on the 24th of September this year, when we got the approval from the Sitting Council, at that time the LegCo was in recess, so we have to wait for you to come back, and then at the very first meeting of the AJLS, we came here, and that meeting took place on the 26th of November. We took the first opportunity to present the paper, and then we've also got an early slot to come here today for the FC approval. So we made a recommendation to the Sitting Council, and then of course this Executive Council had a brief summer recess. However, I can assure you that the work flow hasn't been delayed at all. Next, Mr. Paul Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. According to the paper, for the appointment of JJOs, pay is not the most important factor. For CFA judges, High Court judges, etc., I think if they take pay as an important factor, they would not have taken up the appointment. If you qualify to be a CFA judge or a High Court judge, etc., I think for counsel of that seniority, of that experience, would get the judicial monthly pay in just 1 day's work. I think many of them have become so expert in fighting cases that they would like to contribute to the society by sitting on the bench, at the bench. And then, generally speaking, they have higher retirement age. In other words, in this way, the arrangement is to encourage very experienced lawyers to contribute to the society by joining the judiciary. So I think it's not a matter of the pay, it's a matter of the workload as well as the support. I hope we should streamline the procedures. For lawyers at such an age, they don't want to be sort of blocked down by the cumbersome procedures. So it's better if they have some assistance from assistants doing the research and drafting papers for them. I think if you can provide support of such a nature, more will consider joining the bench. And then, in fact, we have also got many controversial judgments, and so some potential judges may be deterred. And then I want to comment on the question of transparency. To a certain extent, I agree with Dr. Priscilla Leung. It isn't just a matter of JJOs. The recommendation of senior counsel is also lacking in transparency. So many people have said that there is this stable theory. It depends on whether you're friendly with the CJ. If you are, then even you are of a junior age, you may still be able to get promoted soon. Otherwise, since you're not having the right connections, you may not see any escalation soon. So perhaps you should disregard the connections and the networks, and then more people can be appointed as judges, and you will benefit Hong Kong as a whole. And then to comment on Michael Tian's point, For CFA judges, it isn't a matter of whether they are or by how much they are sort of smarter than other judges. So I think the judges have to follow the rules, and then when they make a judgment, they have to be able to justify the judgment. But it's a matter of which point is being given emphasis. For the appellate courts, don't make any statements to discourage them. I think it's a matter of which argument you have picked. So all the comments and observations have been made. If members haven't got other questions, I'll put the matter to the vote. For those who are in favor of the proposal contained in paper FCR 2013-1446, please raise your hands. Thank you. Those who are against, please raise your hands. Abstentions? No. I think this question has been agreed to. Next item. Item 3, FCR 2013-1443. This item invites members to A. Approve an increase in standard payment rates under the Comprehensive Social Security Assistance Scheme and the rates of allowances under the Social Security Allowance Scheme with effect from the 1st of February 2014, and B. Note the financial implications of $1,385 million in annual recurrent expenditure arising from item A above. On the 11th of November this year, the Labour and Welfare Bureau consulted the views of the Welfare Services Panel of the LegCo, and we have a number of officers present to take questions from you. We have Ms. Annie Tam, Permanent Secretary, and then Mr. Donald Chen, Deputy Secretary, both from the Labour and Welfare Bureau, Mr. Fong Bak Yan, Deputy Director of Social Welfare, Mr. Ng Wai Kun, Chief Social Security Officer, and Ms. Cecilia Chen, both from the Social Welfare Department. Now I would like to give the floor to Ms. Chen Yun Han, who is the chair of the Welfare Services Panel, to report to us about the deliberation of the panel. Does it work? At the meeting held on the 11th of November this year, the WSP deliberated on this funding request. We supported the proposal, but we urged the administration to find a way to solve the problem of the lagging behind of the adjustment mechanism concerning the standard payment rates of CSSA. Some members have also asked for a review of the existing CSSA system, and there should be measures to make sure that their living standards will be above the poverty line for the CSSA households. In addition, members have noted that for the rental allowance under the CSSA, usually is not adequate to cover the rental in the private sector for the CSSA, so they urge the administration to regularize the relevant assistance under the Community Care Fund so as to ease their burden when it comes to rental. Mr. Wong Kwok Hing, I'm going to support this paper, but then I have some questions for the administration so that we can see whether at this stage we can still make further improvements. Now the administration would like to cover the OAA, CSSA, and the DA. They will be adjusted in accordance with the inflation rate, namely 4.1%. But then for the OLA, it is going to be increased by 3.8% only. There is a difference of 0.3%. Now the prices are soaring, and we are all faced with the same inflation. So how come that for the first three items, the rate of increase is 4.1%, but then for OALA, it is 3.8% only?
Why there is a difference of 0.3 percentage point? I don't quite understand. I hope the administration can explain. The 0.3 percentage point is not a big sum. It's just a small sum to the administration. As it is said in the paper, in fact, the administration admits in paragraph 5C that the adjustment cycles will be the same. So you say at present the adjustment cycles are not the same. Why can't you be more generous? Why you want to make it difficult for the elderly? It isn't a big sum after all. If you do not synchronize them now, will you make up for the 0.3 percentage point in the future? The Permanent Secretary. Now in paragraph 5, we've explained why there is difference. For the OALA, the adjustment percentage is different, slightly different from that of others. Now, when we came before you to apply for OALA, we submitted a paper. We explained that the OALA would start from the 1st of October 2012. That was the effective date. And price changes will therefore be measured or adjusted in November. In paper 5B, now we say that we will make the first adjustment in February 2014. The adjustment would capture price changes since the effective date. In comparison with other allowances, they make use of the numbers at the end of October 2012, but we base the OALA on the number at the end of November 2012, so there is a 1 month difference. This is in line with the paper we said in 2012. In the future, when we make adjustments, we will align all the arrangements. I know that your adjustment is based on the numbers, but I don't think that is sympathetic enough. There is a 1 month difference. Things cannot be cheaper just because of a difference of 1 month. Why are you so mean? Now the RTHK can increase its budget from 1.6 billion to 6 billion. And for this one, just 1 month difference, and you are so mean on the elderly. In the future, will you make up for that 1 month difference? The time is up, and in fact, she has explained the starting point is 1 month later, and therefore, by the same token, they have to make the same arrangement. I don't speak on their behalf, but if the majority is supportive of that, that's okay. If you think about sympathy, I think the administration has already considered that. These are the numbers. Do you have anything to add? Mr. Wong. Well, although I support it, and I don't want to stand in the way, but I want to criticize the administration. The administration is too mean. Okay, that will be put on record. Next, Mr. Tan Ka-pyo. Thank you, Chairman. We are concerned about the welfare system. On WhatsApps, a 4-member CSSA family, 2 adult, 2 children, $22,000 per month. Well, people say that's a big sum. I hope the SWD can explain concerning a 4-person family, 2 adults who are unemployed and 2 children at school, how much do they get from CSSA per month in order to clarify the whole thing. And then also the numbers. There is the OALA added this year, and 400,000 of them. Can you give us a number? If you can't do it today, give us in writing. Of the 400,000 odd OALA recipients, how many of them were CSSA recipients? How many of them were OAA recipients? How many of them were DA recipients? And how many of them had never received any welfare in the past? How many of them are new applicants? That is, can you give me the numbers? As for those who are receiving OALA, about 200,000 of them are 65 to 69. There are about 1 million who are above age 65. How many do not receive DA, OAA, OALA, or CSSA? I ask for numbers. As for a 4-person family, the average CSSA allowance is $11,800. As for the number you asked, I have to go back and arrange for that. But technically speaking, we may not be able to get every number you want. But I want to know, concerning the OALA, after the launching of OALA, are there who don't want to have the assets of their whole family? Are there who don't want their family to undergo means test, and therefore they don't apply for CSSA, instead they apply for OALA? And also, how many who don't receive OAA, who didn't receive OAA, but they apply for OALA because the amount has increased? Now we have no such estimates, but the CSSA is higher than OALA, so not too many switch from CSSA to OALA. That's by reasoning. Okay, please give the data or numbers in writing later. Next, Mr. Poon Siu Ping. Thank you, Chairman. Well, basically I support the arrangement. $1.385 billion altogether. Recently, the CFA had a decision, and that would have implications on CSSA applications. And newspaper reports said that there were more applications. Will you seek for further provision? Do you have a rough estimate at least at present? The Bureau, has there been any forecast? On the 17th of decision, the CFA made a judgment on this, and we looked at the situation in the past few days. With regard to the decision of the CFA leading to added expenditure, we are still watching the situation. It really depends on the financial situation of the new arrivals and also their willingness to apply for CSSA. In the past 3 days, we have looked at the situation. On the 17th, the number of applicants below 7 years of stay, an increase of 31. On the 18th, 160. And yesterday, on the 19th, 330. On the first day, 31. On the second day, 129. On the third day, 170. Altogether, 330 since the 17th. We will look at the situation. You need to make forecasts for your financial commitment, and that's necessary. Mr. Vincent Fang, my question is similar to the one asked by Mr. Poon. Within a few days, 300-odd cases. If the time gets longer, the number will be very alarming. You are paying, well, we are able to pay, say, 1.38 billion, but really cannot forecast how much we need to bear because of this new judgment. Are you able to forecast that? This is a bottomless pit, and we really don't know whether we are able to bear that. This is just like the type 2 babies. I think C.Y. Leung has done a very good thing. He stopped that. The Chong Fung Yuen case, There were during the Zhang Fengyun case, there were several hundred type 2 babies in a year. When the type 2 baby policy was stopped, there were in that year there were over 30,000 type 2 babies. And as for the impact of this case, I think the number will be even bigger. And how can the administration bear with that? It is really a bottomless pit. Will the administration do a similar assessment as far as the burden is concerned or commitment is concerned? We are watching the situation very closely. I can give you some background information. As at the end of October 2013, CSSA recipients, 263,000 odd cases. Total number of recipients less than 400,000. Just 390,000 odd. And that was the lowest since September 2002, a decline of more than 30 months. In the past 30 months, the economic and employment situation were good, relatively speaking. From 2012 to 2013, expenditure on CSSA is about $20 billion, accounting for about 7% of the government's recurrent expenditure. Since the implementation of 7-year rule for children below age 18, exemption have been given, and the DSW has also given exemption to those who have the real needs. Since the end of 2013, said the Speaker, the DSW has exercised discretion and approved 14,000 applications. As for new arrivals, they accounted for about 12 to 15% of the CSSA recipients. There are about 13,000 CSSA recipients who have stayed in Hong Kong for less than 7 years, less than 3%. So you can see that in 2004, when before the new policy was implemented, well, this is just water under the bridge. Now, with the new decision, the decision may overthrow all your numbers. Mr. Fang is concerned that the increase may be very big. You cannot project too much from the old numbers. Even the Housing Authority may have to do its forecast again. It's not just limited to the SWD. I think the relevant panels may have to discuss these policy matters. Next, Mr. Wu Chi-wai. Thank you, Chairman. I have 2 questions. The Director, in answering our question with regard to a 4-person family, he just gave the number lightly. Concerning the CSSA system, a lot of information is on the internet. Some of the information is correct, some of the information is wrong. I think the Director should be more specific. I don't know how he comes up with the number of just $11,000 on average. He needs to provide us more details. Now we are considering an adjustment, a funding for adjustment according to cost of living adjustment. I want to ask the Bureau or the Department, apart from the basic rate, we also have allowances. We know that the rates are rather functional, so to speak, say rates for meals for students, rates for students paying school fees and participating in extracurricular activities. Concerning these special allowances or rates, will the administration consider giving coupons for specific purposes rather than resorting to administrative convenience and just giving a cash allowance or cash allowances.
The feedback that we have got is that, of course, I'm not talking about all the households, but some households may abuse such money. Instead of spending it on the children, which the money is meant for, they may just spend it on the household as a whole. So I just wonder if there is a need to review the cash subsidy, so that for those who need it, say for example the children or the disabled, they will get special services in the form of vouchers or coupons, so that in the course of it we can reduce the unnecessary wastage or even abuse. Payment in cash as well as the information on the website. Just now I talked about the average figure of $10,000. I'm talking about the average figure for all the CSSA cases. And then, other than the standard rate, in Annex 1 to the paper, we do have supplements. Say, for example, long-term supplement, single-parent supplement, living supplement, etc. There are also other special allowances. It is subject to a ceiling. Say, for example, that for rent, or sometimes you have got a fixed amount. But in other cases, it is on a reimbursable basis. For example, medical devices for the elderly. That's been paid on a reimbursable basis. For CSSA, it's always been in the form of cash. For the time being, we haven't considered the idea of service vouchers. Next, Mr. Leung Kwok Hong. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I hope the Bureau, please speak into the mic. Yes. I would like to ask the administration to clarify the points about the CSSA payment for a 4-person household. From the website, it is said that it is $21,994.16. Well, you need to clarify this. If it is not factual, then there will be further discrimination against the CSSA households, because they just sit there and then they get an income better than those who are working. So please clarify it once and for all. Otherwise, if you make such a statement and try to muddle through, then it is not okay. So it is not fine, and then it is spreading rumors, and you are creating hostility, and then it is not acceptable. Now, if you don't agree with me, please rebut what I've said. So I would say that for those who try to smear others, they better, they shouldn't live on this earth. And then for the OALA, last time I did the filibustering, so it was a month later in terms of the provision of payment. You better punish me than punish the elders. I'm in the anti-East. Anybody getting more votes than me, I'm willing to give up my seat. So just get someone who can get more votes than me. So you must answer this question. Are you going to release extra money? Second, or rather the third one, is that for the CSSA, as a result of the court ruling, I want to know whether you have got money ready for this purpose. Members have asked the right question. You need to name a figure. I think just now Ms. Tam gave a figure. you said that you would not be spending too much money on this. This is because you think that the number of CSSA recipients is coming down. And then for the new arrivals, for those who haven't lived for more than 7 years, and there aren't too many of them applying for CSSA, and in the past you have exercised discretion. Say, for example, instead of letting the mother erode upon the CSSA for her son, you grant the CSSA to the mother as well. Now, as Mr. Vincent Fang is saying, it is a bottomless pit. I think probably at most there will be 50,000 people per year, so it shouldn't be regarded as a bottomless pit. You need to give time to the admin to answer your 3 questions. Ms. Tam, for the payment rate for a 4-person household on CSSA, I think the SWD has given an answer. So they are not getting $21,994.16, so it should be $11,000 read out by Mr. Fung. So what about the information on the web page? So perhaps you should clarify the point so as to set the record straight. Yes, Chairman, I think you're right. So just promise to do that, and then it will be fine. And then for the 2 other questions, for the 0.3% differential, are you reluctant to give it out? And what about the projection for future years? So the questions have already been asked. Now for paragraphs 5 and 8, we have already given an account as to why the OALA is being adjusted in this way. I haven't got anything else to add. And then for the other question, we are trying our best to project the financial position. I have already covered some groundwork, actually, as to how many will come forward to apply. We are watching the development every day. It depends on the conditions and situations that they find themselves in, as well as their desire to apply. We'll be very careful and will make the necessary financial arrangements. Next, Ms. Chen Yun-Han. I'm the chair of the Welfare Services Panel. You asked whether the WSP would follow up on the CFA's ruling. In fact, a member has already proposed a discussion item for that matter. I want to know about the implications. There is community concern about that CFA case, so I hope the government can quickly complete the assessment work. We are going to arrange for a meeting. We want to get you to come to discuss the matter with us. And then for the panel, we all support the various FC items, but it's obvious that on the existing basis, there are certain gray areas. For example, the rental allowance. Well, to be frank, everybody agrees that there's something wrong there. What I mean is that the rental allowance is not adequate to cover the rental in the private housing market. I just wonder whether you can work through the community care fund. Some can get certain assistance under the CCF, but what about the others? I think this question must also be answered. Chair, I mentioned this point because as a result of the CFA case, the government must make some projections, and the community has also got some justifiable concerns. So if the administration is to drag her feet, then we don't know what figures will be given to us. So please, let me emphasize once again the concerns of the WSP. First, the CFA ruling. Give us the figures so as to remove the concerns of the community. No need to mention the financial commitment. You already covered this point earlier on. Probably you can sort of talk about that in the context of the policies. Please comment on the point about rental. As the chair of the WSP, Ms. Chen, has pointed out, every year we'll look at the CPIA in relation to the private housing to make the adjustments on an annual basis for rental allowance. For the year, in fact, on the 1st of February 2014, we are going to make the adjustment. It will be an upward adjustment of 6.5% for the rental allowance. We follow the practice which is long established, and the rate will be adjusted by 6.5% automatically. For the CCF, well, for those who are sort of living in private housing and who are paying a rent which is above the rental allowance for CSSA households, for a 2P household, $4,000, 1P household, $2,000 being the subsidy. We will following the mechanism to make upward adjustments and will be watching the rental market carefully. Mr. Chairman, I hope the PS will make it clear. For the CSSA households, they are faced with high levels of rental in the private housing market, even for bed space occupants. So what they tell us is different from what the administration understands it to be. I think the CCF is helping the vulnerable and the elderly. I think the rental is not the allowance is not adequate to cover the rental. Well, maybe at the policy level they can follow this up with you. I made this comment as a result of the CFA case, and there are also other outstanding issues. Well, I'm afraid if everybody is to go to the court to challenge the administration, then it won't be good. The government must think about this. I'm sure they will study the matter. I don't think we can get anything extra from them today. Next, Mr. Lee Cheuk-yen, and then Mr. Wu Chi-wai for the second time. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We are trying to squeeze something from them, but really, for certain things, you can't get anything out of them. And the Bureau hasn't got a crystal ball. For the CFA judgment, you haven't got a crystal ball. There isn't a crystal ball. Please don't think that with the CFA judgment, you can then quickly come up with a figure. There's no way that you can tell. Why? This is because for those who have been here for 1 to 7 years, the DSW has already got discretionary power. Why discretion has been exercised? Because many of them are victims of domestic violence. So for the 10,000 plus recipients of CSSA, they are already assisted with the discretionary power. For others who are going to come forward to seek help, probably they are victims of DV. Will there be more cases just because in the past they were not getting the discretionary help? Now they are getting it as of right? I don't think we should have too many assumptions. For the new arrivals, we have got 150 on a daily basis. Many of them are children, or they are the wives of Hong Kong people. For they to get CSSA, either they have to take care of the children, or their husbands are unemployed, sick, or they are simply single mothers. Now, for the husband who is unemployed, the husband himself is not a new arrival. So please don't regard the matter as solely something arising from new arrivals. And once the new arrivals have arrived, they are locals, and their husbands are long-time residents. So please don't mix it up. Don't blame everything on the new arrivals. So if you talk about squeezing the information, please don't do so, because you can't extract any information out of it, and you're going to mix up everything, and you seem to blame everything on the new arrivals. In fact, you are creating an impression that the spouse would very much like to get CSSA, but it depends on whether the husband can get a job. With the economy in a better shape, I don't think we should exaggerate the matter.
As for the second point, and that is about the rent allowance, I think you just adopt an average. That is not right. In some districts, the rents in the private sector do not escalate too much, but we all know that for subdivided units, the rents have increased substantially. In particular, in Sam Shui Po, Kwun Tong, the rents rise by 20 to 30% for subdivided flats or subdivided units. The increase of a few percentage points is just meaningless. Will you consider the basis or the base rate? Will you adopt different base rates for different districts? Will you take into account the increase of rent of subdivided units by 20 and 30%? The Bureau, as we have said, the rent allowance is adjusted according to the change of the rent index of the CPIA. CSSA recipients live in different districts, and they may also move. If we consider separate rates for different districts, that will be very difficult. I will give the same answer. We are watching the change in the rental situation very closely. We have public housing for the needy. Let's try to, and we also need to consider the supply situation. If we increase the subsidy, we may also increase the burden on low-income families. Mr. Albert Ho, who is to ask questions for the first time. The judgment of the CFA should cause the people of Hong Kong to consider two matters. First, CSSA only provides for the most basic needs. You won't be starved to death. You will have a shirt on your back, and that's all. It is just for subsistence. As for those who are receiving CSSA, even if they are new arrivals, they have got a one-way permit. If they've stayed for 7 years or more, they will become a permanent resident. They are not an outsider. If our people are not, if our people do not have enough to eat, or if they are not adequately clothed, then Hong Kong will not have stability. And we also need to respect the decision of the court. Furthermore, the administration should consider the implications of this decision. Some consider whether it will affect housing, but the judges say that housing is another issue. CSSA is just for subsistence. You need to do the sums. I want to ask the Director, if I may refer to Para 90 of the judgment. Before the introduction of the 7-year rule, before that cutoff point, several years before the cutoff point, from 1998 to the year 2002, with regard to the new arrivals from the mainland, 12 to 15% received CSSA. Will the administration consider this number appropriate, 10% apply for CSSA? CSSA payment is too low. If one goes out to work, one gets more than CSSA. Hong Kong is near full employment. The new immigrants will be absorbed by the labor market. I want to know from the director, do you just estimate that about 10% will apply for CSSA? No more than 20% will apply for CSSA among the new arrivals. With regard to funding to meet the requirement of the CFA, the increase will just be by and large 10%. This is a repetition. But anyways, please answer the question. As I have said, in the judgment of the CSSA, reference was made to the situation before the year 2004. At that time, a certain percentage, at that time, about 12 to 15% of the CSSA recipients were, or rather, about 12 to 15% of the new arrivals were CSSA recipients. I've already mentioned that. We are watching the willingness, we're watching the application rate and also willingness of those who apply for CSSA. Now, from 1990 to 2003, Mr. Chan, Dr. Chan is here. You know the numbers more than I do. At that time, the employment, the employment rate was higher, and the unemployment rate, or rather, at present, the unemployment rate is lower than the employment rate at that time. Professor Chan, do you have anything to add in this regard? He has nothing to add. And one concern is about the forecasts. And the Bureau has agreed to do a forecast and provide further information to the to members through the various panels. I don't think there is need to spend more time on discussing this matter. 2 more members are in the queue. If you want to ask questions, please raise your hands now, instead of just adding it one after another, bit by bit. Although I see members moving in and out. Dr. Fernando Chung. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning the adjustment of CSSA rates by according to inflation, I think that is the issue of this lagging mechanism. Inflation has happened before there is increase in the rates. The poor families suffer as a result because they only get the added payments later. In fact, we ask you to deal with that, or to do away with that. If one has to rent from the private sector for accommodation, then the CSSA recipient will have to use the money which is part of the money which is for meals to make up for the shortfall of the rent allowance. How many percentage of the CSSA recipients have to make up for the shortfall because of the the rent allowance is not adequate? New arrivals may now apply for CSSA without fulfilling the 7-year requirement. On the 1st of January 2004, apart from the 7-year rule, there was also an arrangement. The administration has introduced the so-called bad boy paper, i.e., the children have to declare how much they support their parents, and that amount will be considered in respect of eligibility to apply for CSSA by the elderly. Will the administration review this arrangement, the so-called bad boy paper? Will that be in breach of the basic law? Have you conducted a review on that? These questions are just a repetition of the CFA decision. But I am asking a percentage. I hope the Bureau will try to answer the question, but I hope that in the future, for members who are late, please do not repeat the same question. We still have 2 more items outstanding. The Bureau first. Thank you, Chairman. Concerning the rent allowance, we've looked at the number. If we adjust the rent allowance by 6.5%, together with the subsidy by the CCF, then the percentage will be raised to 70%. And for those who still have to pay rent out of their own pockets, 10,363 people. As for the decision of the CFA, members have already spoken on that. That is pertaining to the 7-year rule for CSSA. It is not a judgment in respect of making any declaration in respect of the family situation. Of course, the CFA has not made a judgment on that, but it was in 2004 there was such an arrangement, and the amount saved does not or is not proportionate with the administration's ability. I think the official has said what she has to say. In respect of policy, I think the member may follow the matter up on other occasions. As for the financial commitment arising from the decision of the CFA, they will provide the data in the future. Next, Dr. K.K. Kwok. In 2004, the administration did something regrettable. As for the new applicants, they are relatives of Hong Kongers, and many of them are single parents. They have children and they have no help. They rely on the CSSA payments of their children to survive. Tens of thousands of these families are staying away, and they really can't stand on their own. In such an affluent society, we find that the administration is rather mean, and we feel shameful. As for this 1.3 billion, we have to support the proposal. But there's CSSA payment for elderly is some sort of a scam because of the lack of long-term care for the frail elderly. The CSSA payment is used to pay for the service of private RCHEs. The quality of private RCHEs is far from desirable. Despite the monitoring mechanism, we are told by frontline social workers that the quality of service is very varied among the private RCHEs. And now these private RCHEs are making profits, so they are in fact exploiting the elderly. Of this $1.3 billion, they are paid. Some of them are paid to the elderly because service to the elderly is not adequate. You don't have enough place in the subsidized institutions for the elderly. How can you enhance your monitoring of those private RCHEs to make sure that the elderly there are not living under tragic conditions? As for the CSSA recipients who live in private housing, the rent subsidy is not, the rent allowance is not adequate. The adjustment is lagging behind. Now there is a substantial increase in rent in subdivided units. Even in Tuen Mun, for the subdivided units, even in industrial buildings in Tuen Mun, rent has increased very substantially. Will you do away with this lagging behind phenomenon?
We do oversee the quality of the privately run RCHE, and we have a licensing office to regulate the quality as well as the service of the privately run RCHEs. The administration also works hard to enhance the quality of the private homes. Say, for example, we have the bought place scheme as well as the enhanced bought place scheme. And we have also got subsidized homes. We have plans to construct the subsidized homes. Taken together, you see that we are hoping to improve the quality of residential care for the elderly. What about the rise in the rental of the subdivided units in factory buildings? Well, for the rental allowance under the CSSA, we follow the CPIA. We make the adjustments accordingly. For those living in cubicles, bed space, and subdivided units, they don't account for a large proportion of the population. So in terms of sampling, it will be difficult. That's why I'm saying that there's a problem with the calculation. For the CSSA households, more of them are living in the inadequate housing than the general population. So just by adopting the CPIA, you may not be able to come to a accurate picture. The administration has made it clear. They hope that even if they have to go to SDUs, they hope that the rental would be enough for households to get a roof over their heads in a cheaper SDU. It's a matter of whether the figures that you base your calculation on are reasonable. So in terms of the policies, please do more work so that the panel will find it palatable. Now, if you haven't got other questions on the financial side of the matter, I will put the matter to the vote. So for those who are in favor of the proposal in paper FCR 2013 to 1443, raise your hands, please. Thank you. For those who are against, please raise your hands. No? Those who abstain? No? I think that members who voted are in favor of the proposal, so the paper has been endorsed. Item 4. FCR 2013 to 1438. The item 6 members for approval to approve an allocation of $69,920,000 from the Lotteries Fund for meeting the construction costs of a new contract residential care home for the elderly and a new daycare center for the elderly at the site of X Kwong Choi Market, Tuen Mun. On the 11th of November 2013, at the WSP meeting, the administration consulted the views of the members. And to answer members' question, we have Mrs. Elena Chen and Ms. PAS for Labor and Welfare, Mr. Lam Ka-tai, Deputy Director of Social Welfare, SWD, Ms. Cecilia Lee, Assistant Director of SW, and Mr. Simon Kong, Senior Architect from the SWD, in attendance. First of all, I give the floor to Ms. Chen Yun Han so that we get the report from her on the deliberation of the panel. At a meeting held on the 11th of November this year, the WSP discussed the funding request. Members supported the proposal, but we urged the administration to increase the number of places and also shorten the construction period. Some members have suggested that the administration should lower the ratio for the non-subsidized places in the contract homes in the poorer districts so as to provide more subsidized places for those who lack the means. Who would like to ask questions? 4. All right. I will give 3 minutes to members each. Mr. Chairman, how come not 4 minutes or 5 minutes? How come 3 minutes? Because we have got 2 other items. Now 5 members have pressed the button to speak, so I need to make adjustments in relation to the time slots. I hope that we can sort of finish the meeting within this year. You can extend the meeting 15 minutes, so if you need to ask more questions, you can queue up for the second round. Mr. Wong Kok Heng. Mr. Chairman, it would be in 2020-21 that the money will be used to construct their home. So 7 to 8 years later, in other words, it would be in the year. It means that in 11 or 12 years' time, then the home will be available. I want to know why the money will actually be granted in 7 or 8 years' time. I want to know when they will be available. Another question is, for the 7 or 8 years in between, there will be escalation of construction costs and there will be inflation. Have you factored that in? Otherwise, does it mean that in 7 or 8 years' time you will come back to ask for supplementary provision? Now today, you ask for $69.92 million. Have you already factored in those 2 elements? Thank you, Mr. Chairman. In our paper, please refer to paragraph 5 for the construction costs. It is item A in the estimates. We have also got a figure of $24.99 million for provision for price adjustment. In other words, we have already taken into account the cost adjustments or the price adjustments in the coming years. Moreover, for this development project, since we are going to work through the land disposal program, and then the buyer of the site will have to build the home for the elderly as well as the daycare center for the elderly for the government. So whoever gets this site must build the 2 facilities to our satisfaction. They will be told of our construction costs. For the $69.92 million that we are asking for, that will be the maximum amount for the buyer. And in fact, we are going to reimburse the buyer in relation to the actual cost or the amount we ask for, whichever is the less. $24 million is being reserved for the purpose of price adjustments. I want to know why you are asking for money that will be sort of reserved for 7-8 years. Why don't you use the money now for something more urgent? And you still have to get $24 million for the purpose of price adjustment. I think it's outrageous. Department, well, in the conditions of the lease, we have to provide for the specifications of the RCHE and the DE, so we have to name the construction costs. I thank members for their comments. In November, when we went to the WSP meeting, we noted members' concerns. At that time, in that paper, for the RCHE, we were able to grant the contract in 2011 to 12. Having heard members' concerns, we have already compressed the time needed. In other words, the contract can be granted a year earlier. That is in the year 2020 to 2021. And then for the daycare center for the elderly, it will also be available in the same year. That is 2020 to 2021. I can't understand. The government is not short of money, and we sell land every year. Why can't we use the money earlier? And it's something that will benefit the elderly. How come that the money will only be used in 7 or 8 years' time? Mr. U.C. Wing. Yes, a question about the provision for price adjustment. The total cost will be more or less 70 million, and yet the provision for price adjustment will be as much as $24.99 million. Now, of course, they're saying that they have to factor in the price adjustments. I don't find this a good idea. You may give us the impression that the construction cost is not that expensive, but then you have a lot of provision for the price adjustment. I want to know whether you can sort of increase the construction costs and decrease the provision for price adjustment. Is it the usual practice, or is it mainly because it will take a longer time to complete the project? Department, it is a usual practice. Now the ASD will look at the construction floor area as well as the technical requirements of the proposed welfare facilities to come to the figure. In similar projects, we have also got a provision for price adjustment. Next, Alice Mack. Let me come back to the question of the money. It is said that it is a usual practice to provide for price adjustment. I understand it, but I want to know whether it is the same for all projects. That is, you have got 1/3 of the amount for the purpose of price adjustments. Now, $27 million for the RCHE, and yet the price adjustment itself alone will cost $24.9 million. I want to know whether the ratio is commonly seen in other projects as well. And then $69 million in total. But then we have to wait for a long time before we get the places available. Moreover, 100 only, and only 60 are really subsidized places. Now, it takes a long time, and the money will be locked or frozen for a long time. So I just wonder whether there is a better way to spend our public money and make it more efficient. I want to have more places, and I want a shorter construction time. Just now you said that you noted members' views, but you were able to shorten it by 1 year only. Administration. About the provision of subsidized places, we adopt a multi-pronged approach. Sometimes we buy places, sometimes we build new contract homes. Say, for example, we do it within the context of a PRH project, or we have it on a piece of private land, or we can do it via URA projects. And then for the subvented homes, since they are undergoing, when they undergo a transformation, we can also try to increase the number of subsidized places when the opportunity arises. So we do adopt a multi-pronged approach. What about the ratio of the provision for price adjustment? Is there a rule? Well, for the provision for price adjustment, all along we have been relying on the ASD to come to the figure. So it won't be the case that the basis differs from one case to another. Doesn't mean that the ASD tells you that they need 1/3 of the funding for price adjustment and you don't ask questions? Is it true for other projects of the SWD as well? It depends on the duration of the project as well as the date of completion. Therefore, for the ASD, I think they must have taken this into account.
Chairman, we are rather frustrated. We are at the mercy of them. We cannot say we oppose building that. Next, Dr. Fernando Chang. I really don't understand why they take so long. It's only when 2020 and 2021 the contract will be awarded. When will the center commence service? Chairman, this is in the land disposal program. In the land disposal conditions, or rather when the land disposal contract is signed, then the project will have to be completed within 72 months. 72 months is only the ceiling. It can be earlier. And there were such examples. 2020, 21 plus 72 months. 2014, first quarter, the site will be sold, and then the contract will be signed. By 2020, 2021, operation will commence. Latest, it will be completed by 2020, 2021. But this is only the ceiling. In terms of the duration, we will maintain close contacts with them so that the whole project can be completed ASAP. Well, it will be earlier, not later. I hope it can be earlier. The whole island line, Island South line, or South Island line, MTR, is completed, will be completed within 6 or 7 years. You're just building a daycare center, a center for the elderly, and you also need 6 or 7 years. That's really, well, you can wait in the line now. Yeah, you can wait in the line now. Well, even if I wait in the line now, I can't get a place. The majority of the elderly passed away before they get a place in a subvented home. There are 20 or 30,000 waiting per year, and about 5,000 died. I hope that the homes for the elderly, there should be more and more subvented homes. As for the contracted homes, they have about 40 to 50 self-financing places, but that only dilutes the service. The center, in order to be self-financing, will have to share the manpower with the self-financing places, and only those who can pay will be accommodated first in the centers. Chairman, I am really afraid that we won't live long enough to wait for the place. Ms. Chen Yuan-Han. Well, I'm really touched by this. I have to be waiting. I have been counting the number of years. They remove Sek Chai Lang. They demolished Sek Chai Lang. Over 1,000 elderly are displaced, and you only built 100 or so places. I'm referring to the NT Northeast development. More than 1,000 elderly people will be displaced by that. Now the welfare panel is handling this case, and the elderly are suffering. You remove an elderly home in Sek Chai Lang, over 1,000 are displaced, and I really don't know how you can accommodate them. You're just adding 100 or so, and you need 6 years. Other bureaus just don't care. We are criticizing you. I know you face the problem caused by other bureaus. I'm not trying to cast a division among you, but this is a fact. Well, it really strike a chord. Do you really need so many years to complete this project? You have to face the difficulty of the RHSD and also the Works Bureau. Now, the Secretary for Financial Services and Treasury also has to look at this. The Labor and Welfare Bureau has their hands tied because of other bureaus in the provision of homes for the elderly, and also the demolition of Sek Tai Leng will also displace over 1,000 elderly because they have to make way for the anti-Northeast developments. We really saddened. We approved the funding today, and the home will only be completed in 2020 or 2021. We really can't stay so long to see the completion. We won't be around by then, probably. I really find that saddening. I don't think they caused this trouble, but that's a problem. Yes, administration has to work hard to supervise the job, the project more closely. Mr. Ong Kok Heng, the second round, 2 minutes. The home, the LCHE, will only be completed by 2020-2021. Will the administration come to get the money after 6 or 7 years instead of getting the number now, getting the money now? Then you don't need C. That is the provision for price adjustment. The amount is $24,990,000. That will not be wasted. That at least less will be wasted. But now we are throwing $24 million into the drain. It's really outrageous. In the previous paper, I refer to the OALA. Just 1 month difference. You are so mean. You calculate every cent against the elderly. Here, you throw $24 million into the drain. I have a few seconds left. Answer me. Can you apply for funding after 5 or 6 years? How will you get the money? Now, in the land sale conditions, we have to tell the buyer what is the ceiling for building this welfare facility. This is only the ceiling. With the completion to the satisfaction of the administration, the buyer of the land will be given a refund according to the actual cost of construction. This is only a ceiling. Well, if there is no objection, I'll put the proposal to the vote. Those in favor of the proposals of FCR 38, please raise their hands. Those against, please raise their hands. Mr. Chairman, I oppose. Please put it on record. I don't stand in the way, so I don't ask for a division. I want to put on record. I want to strongly condemn the government for wasting public money. It's properly recorded. No abstention. I think the question is agreed by a majority of members who voted. I declare the motion passed. The last item. If need be, we can extend our meeting by another 15 minutes. FCR 2013-14, Paper 42. Members are invited to approve an allocation of $40.65 million from the Lotteries Fund for meeting the construction costs of rehabilitation and elderly services facilities in the development projects of the Urban Renewal Authority at High Town Street, Quailin Street, and Peo Street Cemetery Pole. The Labour and Welfare Bureau consulted the Welfare Services Panel on the 11th of November. To answer members' questions, we have the following government officials, and they are Mr. Stephen Seal, Commissioner for Rehabilitation, and Ms. Alina Chan, PAS for Labour and Welfare, Mr. Lam Kar Tai, Deputy Director of Social Welfare Services, SWD, Mr. Fong Kai Leung, Assistant Director of Social Welfare, Rehabilitation, Medical Social Services, Ms. Cecilia Lee, Assistant Director of Social Welfare, Elderly, and Mr. Simon Kong, Senior Architect. Ms. Chen Yun-Han, would you report to the committee the discussion at the Welfare Panel? Thank you, Chairman. On the 11th of November, the Welfare Service Panel discussed the relevant funding proposal. Members supported the proposal, but urged the administration to shorten the waiting time for rehabilitation for preschool children and meet the demand as soon as possible. In view of the location of the project, which is quite far away from an MTR station, the administration urged the administration to pay attention to that and review the manpower situation as well. Ms. Chen Lai-wen, I noticed that this project is funded by the Lotteries Fund like the previous one. I want to ask the administration, how much is the balance of the Lotteries Fund? What is the average annual income of the Lotteries Fund? What is the average annual expenditure of the Lotteries Fund? Is there any policy on that? The FSTB. With regard to the Lotteries Fund, in the fiscal year 2012-13, the cash balance is $10.28 billion. At the end of 2012-13, that was the cash balance. But there are many approved projects. There are commitments made. And the money will be given out upon completion of those projects. After deducting our commitments, uncommitted balance as at the end of 2012-13, $6.34 billion. $6.534 billion. The member asked about our annual income. In the 2012-13 fiscal year, the income of the Lotteries Fund, which is mainly from Mark 6, $1.779 billion. What about the annual expenditure? 2012-13, $880 million, but this is actual expenditure. In the same year, we approved projects, and the commitment is $1.85 billion. Next, Dr. Fernando Chang. Ms. Cheng's question is a worthy one. The Lotteries Fund should not be used to fund the capital expenses for government subvented recurrent expenditure. The lotteries fund should be used to fund the NGOs and charity groups so that these institutions can introduce innovative services. The lotteries fund should not be used to fund capital expenses for recurrent services, which is funded by the administration. That's the first point. As for preschool rehab, there is a very acute shortage. 6,000 or so places available, but the number of people waiting are more than that. The age of 0.0 year to 6 year old is the golden period for rehabilitation. But they only increase the 1,200 places by 2017-18. There is a gap in respect of the demand for service. I hope such places can be increased as soon as possible.
We are talking about services for the children as well as daycare services for the elderly. So I think the accessibility is a matter of concern. I'm not too sure about the curbside activities. I can't tell from the map as to whether such activities can be carried out safely. It seems that there isn't a lay-by. If we haven't got a safe place for them to alight or board the rehab bus and other means of transport, it will be worrying. To answer Dr. Zheng's question, the first one, well, for the lotteries fund, it has been set up to support development of social welfare facilities. It is sort of a non-recurrent in nature, so it's a matter of supplementing and the funding. So it's about the acquisition of furniture, etc. So using the LF to build the social welfare facilities is in line with the terms of reference of the LF. Dr. Zheng also mentioned about the rehab services for preschool children. He talks about the demand. We fully appreciate the strong demand for such services. Today, we have come here to get your approval for this item. In fact, in the existing financial year, all the way up to the financial year 2017-2018, in terms of preschool rehab places, we are going to increase around about 1,200 places. We'll be having early education and training center as well as special childcare centers. We are receiving proposals from the NGOs for such facilities like Shan King, Kwai Sing West Estate and Yao Lai Estate in Kwun Tong and Mei Tin Estate in Sha Tin. As to the location, in our paper, we have said that there will be a reception counter and we've also got parking facilities. For the special childcare center, we've already set aside a lay-by to be used by the children. And then for the daycare center for the elderly, there's a lay-by for 2 buses. So in terms of the curbside activities, we have already noted members' concern. We will pay special attention to the design of such facilities. Dr. Jiang, 2 minutes. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The administration has already reserved land for 1,200 places for special education for preschool children. It is good. I think this will include children who are suffering from hyperactivity, who don't otherwise enjoy education facilities. Do you know the figure? For those waiting for preschool rehab services, as of end of November, 5,900 or so children under the age of 6 are waiting for this kind of service. For the SWD, what we provide is preschool rehab service, serving children in the age group between 0 and 6 years old. We hope that in the golden years, they are able to get rehab service ASAP. Of course, we do understand that some children are still in the waiting list, and therefore 2 years ago, through the Community Care Fund, we have a learning and training subsidy, so that those who are on the waiting list and poor households, they can get an allowance so as to get self-financing service from NGOs. Well, I've received an inquiry. There is this parent who has got a child suffering from hyperactivity. The child is not being accepted by the schools. There are about 3,000 such cases. They don't have school to go to. Now they have to save a lot of money so that she can have $10,000 a month for the child to go to school. Are the figures correct? For those aged 6 or above, they are school children. If they have special educational needs, it will be within the remit of the Education Bureau. They have the service for them. I don't think I can give you any figures in this regard. If there aren't other questions, I'll put the matter to the vote. Those who are in favor of the proposal in paper FCR 2013-1442, raise your hands, please. Thank you. Those who are against, please raise your hands. No? Abstentions? No? All right. I think members who took part in the voting are in support of the motion. This motion has been carried, so we've completed the meetings for the year 2013. We're going to have another meeting in 2014. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year.